Welcome to a galaxy where dreams awaken and the Force flows like a lullaby. I'm the Jedi Temple Librarian. Here, under twin moons and starlit skies, ancient secrets unfold in quiet speak. These are Star Wars what-ifs to fall asleep to or get deep into the books with, mysterious, magical, and timeless. We ask, who is your favorite Jedi? Let us know in the comments. Let the stars guide your journey. And may your dreams and the Force be with you. Story 1. What if Mace Windu had defeated Palpatine? Coruscant was not unfamiliar with storms, but this one tore through the skyline like the city was being judged. Thunder echoed between durasteel towers as rain streaked like laser fire down transparent steel panes. High above, the Supreme Chancellor's office pulsed with flickering light, where destiny itself was being reshaped. The duel was already in motion. Mace Windu's amethyst blade cut arcs of controlled fury, his feet shifting with the practiced elegance of Varpad. Sidious, now stripped of senatorial illusion, bared yellowed teeth and screeched with pure hate. The Chancellor's crimson saber hummed furiously as it clashed again and again with Windu's violet blade. But his strikes were no longer calculated, they were desperate. This moment was supposed to mark the Sith's triumph. But Windu, often maligned for his rigidity, had glimpsed clarity in the dark. He understood now. Victory demanded purpose without hatred. "You will die," Palpatine howled. "I don't think so," Windu replied flatly. He twisted low, letting the Sith Lord overextend, then pivoted high and severed the hilt from Sidious's grasp. The red blade clattered across the marble floor. Lightning surged from the Chancellor's fingers, but Mace was ready. He raised his saber, caught the bolt, and reflected it back into Sidious's own face. The Sith reeled, shrieking in pain, and then Windu stepped in and sliced clean through both of Palpatine's wrists. The lightning stopped. Sidious fell backward, crawling like a broken insect. Then Anakin arrived. "Master Windu," Anakin cried, breath ragged from his sprint up the tower. Mace didn't turn around. "It's over, Skywalker. He's beaten." Palpatine writhed at Mace's feet, burnt, bleeding, but still smiling, like he knew something neither of them did. "He's the Sith Lord," Windu said. "The war, the Jedi's destruction, all of it was him." "Anakin," Palpatine hissed, barely audible, "they'll destroy you. They fear your power." Anakin's hand hovered near his saber. "I can save her," Palpatine whispered. "You know it." "Enough lies," Windu said, stepping aside. "Look at him, Anakin. Use your instincts, not your fear." Anakin's gaze locked on the disfigured man he once called mentor. His mind flashed with Padme's face, visions of her death, cries, fire. But then, clarity. "You're the Sith Lord," Anakin said quietly. Palpatine's lip curled, and Mace Windu, in one swift motion, drove his saber into Sidious's chest. It was over. The death of Darth Sidious created a vacuum, but also a possibility. For the first time in decades, the Sith rule of two had been broken without passing the torch. At the Jedi Temple that night, silence reigned. Obi-Wan stared through the holomap, unable to process what had happened. He was the Sith all along. Yoda, sitting with Windu in the shadows, finally spoke. The veil lifted, yes, but shadows long remain. Windu exhaled. "We have much to fix." "And Anakin?" He sat on the temple steps, face buried in his hands. Padme came to him in secret. "They said you didn't stop him, that you let Windu finish it." "I saw what he was," Anakin whispered. I almost joined him." "But you didn't." "No, I chose you." She embraced him, hands shaking. "Then come home, Anakin. Come back to me." Without Sidious, the Clone Wars lost their orchestrator. The gears still turned, but the design collapsed. Now both sides reeled. The Senate was chaos. Masa Meda scrambled to reassure systems. Emergency powers were rescinded. The war continued, but the tides shifted. Dooku, abandoned, began operating openly. Grievous fled the core. The Jedi reassembled their shattered code. Anakin was kept close, watched, but not shunned. Windu, sensing the boy's inner war, chose mentorship over exile. "You stood before the dark and didn't fall," Mace said. "Let's make sure you never do." Windu and Anakin fought together on Megiddo, routing Grievous's blockade. At one point, their sabers spun together in perfect rhythm. "You're slowing down," Anakin teased. "You're reckless," Windu replied. But in that friction, there was respect. Dooku was captured alive over Christophsis. "I was a fool," the Count admitted in his cell, bruised and broken. "But you're still puppets." "No," Obi-Wan replied. "We cut the strings." The Sith were extinguished, but redemption, as always, was harder than vengeance. Anakin struggled daily with dreams, Padme's death, screams in the dark. Windu taught him to acknowledge fear, but not bow to it. Peace came slowly. Padme gave birth to twins, Leia and Luke, in the med center beneath the temple. The children were not hidden. They were celebrated. The Jedi Order reformed. Attachment was not shunned, but guided. Windu stood at the first new council in a decade and declared, "We must grow or perish. The Force is balance, not suppression." Yoda nodded in agreement. "Finally, you learn." Years later, Anakin walked through the temple gardens, Leia tugging at his robes, Luke chasing fireflies. Obi-Wan approached. "You did it, Anakin. You chose the light." Anakin smiled. "No, I keep choosing it. Every day." Maul still stirred in the unknown regions. But without Sidious, his reach was feral, not strategic. The galaxy remembered Amidala, Windu, and the Jedi who turned from war to wisdom. Palpatine's final words were, "Wait, no, that's not," before Windu turned him into Force-flavored barbecue. Jedi robes now come with built-in dad pockets. Story 2. What if Obi-Wan had killed Anakin on Mustafar? The lava river hissed with fury beneath their feet. Molten rock bubbled as fiery geysers burst like the breath of a planet in pain. The sky above Mustafar bled red, as if mourning what was about to occur. Blades clashed with deafening force, blue against blue. Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker fought like gods at war, each strike ringing with heartbreak. One fought for hope, the other for control, and in between them, a galaxy trembling at the edge of annihilation. "You've allowed this Dark Lord to twist your mind," Obi-Wan cried. "You will not take her from me," Anakin roared. The duel surged from the control deck to the narrow pipe spanning the lava flow. The world groaned around them. Anakin's face was fire and fury, yellow eyes burning through the smoke. Obi-Wan's heart was breaking even as he parried for survival. This moment defined generations. Obi-Wan had believed he could save Anakin, that the brother he loved still lived beneath the Sith rage. But that belief was about to shatter. Obi-Wan flipped from the pipe to the high slope of black sand. "It's over, Anakin," he said, voice quivering. "I have the high ground." Anakin didn't hesitate. He leapt. Obi-Wan didn't. His blade rose in one clean motion and struck. But this time, it struck higher. The saber sliced across Anakin's chest, not just his limbs. He fell mid-air, lifeless, smoking. The silence was instant. No screaming, no crawling. Just stillness. Obi-Wan stood, frozen. Rain began to fall, a miracle on Mustafar. Steam clouded the air. Kenobi slowly deactivated his saber, trembling. "I'm sorry," he whispered to the charred form of the boy he once trained. "I'm so sorry." Padme awoke in the med center on Polis Massa, coughing. The medical droids swarmed. She was weak but alive. The twins were born, Luke, Leia. But Obi-Wan entered without the guilt that once haunted him. "He's gone," he told her gently. Tears welled in her eyes. "No, you were right. There was good in him. But I couldn't reach it in time." Padme wept, but her heart beat on, and so did her cause. With Anakin dead, Darth Vader never rose. But Palpatine remained. The Sith Lord's plan was wounded, but not ended. He shifted strategies. The Jedi Temple was ash and silence. Order 66 had still been carried out. Clones turned. Jedi fell. Obi-Wan and Yoda met in exile, weighing the future. "He is gone," Obi-Wan said hollowly. "I made the choice." "Difficult that choice was," Yoda replied. "Necessary, perhaps, but a wound it leaves." They both looked toward the sky. A darkness still lingered. Padme went into hiding. Leia was raised by Bail Organa on Alderaan as before, but Luke remained with his mother, living in secrecy in the forests of Naboo. Obi-Wan watched over them both. Palpatine declared the Jedi extinct. A new empire rose, slower and more methodically. With no Vader to enforce terror, fear became policy. Manipulated systems, corrupted senators, quiet oppression. But Padme had not died, and neither had rebellion. Years later, Bail Organa brought word to Padme's safe house. There's a movement forming. Mothma, Bel Iblis, others. They need a symbol. I'm not a symbol, Padme said. You are, Bail replied. You survived Anakin Skywalker. You survived the fall. Padme stepped out into the starlight, holding Luke's hand. Then we fight. Without Vader's terror, the Empire relied on bureaucracy and economic strangulation. It was dangerous, but less absolute. It left cracks Padme could slip through. Leia grew strong on Alderaan, quick-witted and sharp-tongued. Luke learned from Obi-Wan in secret, though his mother forbade it at first. I've lost enough to the Jedi, Padme said. He needs to understand who his father was, Obi-Wan answered, then teach him what not to become. Luke trained not in anger or vengeance, but in memory. By the time he was 20, Luke Organa Naberia stood beside his mother at a secret gathering on Sulust. Leia was there, cloaked in royal white. The rebellion was no longer an idea. It was an army. The twins stood together, unaware of their shared blood. We can't wait for hope. Padme told them, we must become it. The rebellion struck deep into Imperial territory. Grand Moffs underestimated them. Palpatine, without an apprentice, turned to arcane Sith relics and dark rituals. And then he made a final mistake. He lured Padme out of hiding. On Exegol, in a temple soaked in darkness, the Emperor stood before her. You defied destiny, he spat. You stole my weapon. Padme didn't flinch. I gave birth to its replacement. Palpatine snarled, but Luke arrived with Obi-Wan beside him. Leia followed with Mon Mothma's fleet. And the battle began. The Force trembled as Luke and Palpatine clashed. Obi-Wan held back a tide of Inquisitors. Padme fled into the temple, searching for the relics Palpatine had guarded. She found something unexpected. A recording, Anakin's final words before Mustafar. I was wrong. She clutched it to her chest, and then she smashed it. Let him go. Leia detonated the Emperor's inner sanctum. Palpatine fell, for real this time. And with him, the darkness broke. Years passed. Padme became Chancellor of the New Republic. Luke and Leia learned the truth of their blood and chose different paths. Luke rebuilt the Jedi. Leia rebuilt the Senate. Obi-Wan, older and tired, disappeared into the Outer Rim, but he smiled, knowing he had fulfilled his duty. Anakin tried the high ground cheat code, didn't work. Obi-Wan won, Lava Boy hero. Padme went from heartbreak to Chancellor. She's booked on TED Talks. Story 3. What if Luke had joined Vader on Cloud City? The air in the carbon-freezing chamber sizzled with electricity and betrayal. Vader's silhouette, backlit by orange steam, loomed over the broken figure of his son. Obi-Wan never told you what happened to your father. He told me enough. Luke Skywalker panted, clutching his severed wrist. His lightsaber had fallen into the void. He told me you killed him. No, Luke, I am your father. Silence. Only the wind howled through the reactor core. In another life, Luke would leap away. Deny the truth, cling to rebellion, but pain has a way of making clarity hurt, and promises impossible to resist. Join me, and together we can rule the galaxy as father and son. Vader extended his hand. Luke stared at it, blood dripping, mind racing. Ben's ghost had lied. The Alliance had no answers. Only Vader had truth. Luke reached out and took it. The fall of Skywalker was not loud. It did not break the sky. It happened in silence. They left Bespin aboard Vader's shuttle. Leia screamed after them, held back by Lando. Chewie roared. Han remained frozen in carbonite, and the Falcon limped away into deep space, -1. On board the Executor, Vader personally fitted a prosthetic to Luke's hand. You've done well, he said, almost gently. Luke did not respond. The galaxy had shifted. With Luke at his side, Vader's dynamic with the Emperor changed. Sidious saw opportunity, but also threat. The Chosen One and his heir, unified, could undo him. Vader brought Luke to Coruscant. The Emperor stood atop the obsidian spire of the Imperial Palace. "So, young Skywalker," he said, voice laced with poison, "you've embraced your destiny." "I've embraced the truth," Luke replied. "You kept it from me." Palpatine smiled thinly. "You will serve me well." Luke bowed his head, but not out of loyalty, out of patience. In the shadows of the Sith, Luke learned. He trained in silence, not anger. He read ancient texts stolen from the Jedi Temple. He listened to his father's voice, not Palpatine's. Vader saw it too late. Luke wasn't becoming a Sith, he was becoming something else. The Emperor had sought to manipulate both father and son, but Luke had a Skywalker's defiance and a seed of rebellion in his blood. Months passed, Leia became the leader the rebellion needed. She chased rumors. One said Luke was dead, another that he was now Darth Solus, apprentice of Vader. Mon Mothma tried to comfort her. "I don't believe he's gone," Leia said. "I can feel him." On Mustafar, in a chamber rebuilt from Vader's pain, Luke stood before his father. "You know we can't serve him," he said. Vader stared into the flames. "I swore allegiance." "You swore it to a liar." Vader said nothing. Luke stepped forward. "Help me end him." The plan began. Luke returned to the rebel fleet alone. Leia greeted him with hesitation, eyes full of both fury and longing. "Where were you?" she asked. "I was learning." "You joined him." "I did what I had to," he said. Leia punched him in the shoulder. Luke smiled. Trust was not easily regained, but Luke brought more than apologies. He brought blueprints, codes, weaknesses. Everything needed to assault the heart of the Empire. The second Death Star still neared completion above Endor, but this time the rebellion attacked the core, not the shield. Luke and Leia led the assault. Han rescued the prisoners from Coruscant. And Vader? He confronted Palpatine. Alone. "You have betrayed me," the Emperor snarled. "I have obeyed you long enough," Vader said. "You would replace me with him?" "No," Vader said, "with her." Leia arrived in the throne room, blaster in hand. "Guess what?" she said. "I'm your daughter too." Palpatine laughed. "I felt it all along. You should have said something." "I was waiting for your anger." "I brought a better gift," she said. Luke ignited his saber. The final battle was not between apprentice and master, but between bloodlines and the cancer that twisted them. Palpatine unleashed storm after storm of Force lightning. Vader blocked it. Luke countered. Leia shot through shadows. Together, the Skywalker trio drove the darkness back. Vader lifted Palpatine into the air, sparks arcing from his own armor, and hurled him into the abyss. For the first time in galactic history, the Skywalkers stood united, not to dominate, but to restore. After the battle, Vader collapsed. Luke removed the helmet. "Tell your sister, I'm sorry." Leia held his hand. "We know." And then Anakin Skywalker died, not a monster, but a man. The Empire fell, not from rebellion, but from the betrayal of its creators. Luke refused the mantle of Jedi Master. "I'm not what they were," he said. Leia agreed. "We're what comes next." Luke went full dark side internship, but flipped it like a house on Zillow. Vader finally got therapy via Leia's blaster. Family reunions, awkward, powerful. Story 4. What if Ahsoka had stayed with the Jedi Order? The council chamber was silent, save for the low hum of Coruscant's endless city beneath. Jedi Masters lined the curve of the room, faces solemn, some ashamed. At the center stood Ahsoka Tano, hood down, hands clasped, eyes burning with disappointment. "We were wrong," Mace Windu admitted. "You have our apologies, Padawan." Ahsoka looked at Master Yoda, then at Anakin, who stood near the window, struggling to hide the pain behind his eyes. In the original timeline, Ahsoka left the Order here, broken by betrayal, alienated by politics. But what if, just this once, she said something different? "I accept your apology," Ahsoka said quietly. Shock rippled through the chamber, even Anakin blinked. "But I'm not returning as your Padawan. I'll return as a Jedi, on my terms." Windu straightened. "That is, irregular." "Your treatment of me was irregular," she replied. Anakin's lip twitched, half proud, half stunned. Yoda nodded slowly. "Wise you have become." Ahsoka's decision didn't undo the rot in the Order, but it lit a spark. Her survival within its walls altered many things, starting with Anakin Skywalker. They returned to war, side by side. Ahsoka was no longer a Padawan. She was a knight in all but title, leading troops with a natural grace few Jedi ever matched. Clone troopers painted her markings on their helmets with pride. She was a symbol, not of the Council, but of what Jedi could be. Anakin and Ahsoka fought together on Obadiah, routing a separatist stronghold. Between battles, they talked. "You surprised me, Snips," Anakin said. "Didn't expect you to come back." "I didn't come back for the Council," she said. "I came back for you." He looked away. "Sometimes, I worry about what I might become." "You won't become anything I can't pull you back from." Ahsoka's return gave Anakin something rare: balance. She challenged his anger, reminded him of humanity, and unknowingly placed herself between him and the dark. On Mandalore, Ahsoka led the charge to capture Maul. But this time, Anakin and Obi-Wan fought alongside her. Maul still howled about Sidious, about Skywalker's fate. "He will fall," Maul cried, trapped in a ray shield. "No," Ahsoka said, stepping close. "He won't." The Council reconvened. Ahsoka reported everything Maul had said. "Skywalker is central to his visions," she explained. Windu dismissed it, but Yoda frowned. "Concerned I am." Palpatine began to accelerate his plans. But they unraveled under scrutiny. Windu kept Anakin closer. Ahsoka trained younglings and remained active in the field. Obi-Wan noticed the cracks in the Chancellor's facade. Padme, still in secret contact with Anakin, confided in Ahsoka. "I'm pregnant," she said. "Does he know?" Padme nodded. "He's terrified." "Good," Ahsoka said. "Fear means he still feels." The tipping point came not at the Chancellor's office, but at the Jedi Temple. Ahsoka intercepted a coded message. A new clone directive. Secret. Buried. She brought it to Rex, who investigated quietly. They uncovered Order 66. The trap was unraveled before it sprung. Windu confronted Palpatine with a battalion of clones loyal to Rex. Ahsoka, Anakin, and Yoda backed him. The Sith Lord attacked, unleashing lightning. But Anakin didn't hesitate. He stepped forward and caught the blast with his saber, and then he ended it. Palpatine fell. The war ended. Because Ahsoka stayed, she became the fulcrum around which Anakin's fate turned. She exposed the trap. She kept him tethered. She gave him time. The Jedi Order reeled. Hundreds had still died. But the purge never came. Ahsoka was given the rank of knight, officially. Anakin was granted a seat on the Council, not out of favoritism, but out of necessity. And Padme gave birth to twins in peace. Yoda stepped down as Grand Master. The Order rebuilt itself, not around doctrine, but around individuals. "We were wrong," he said, echoing Ahsoka's moment years before. "Now learn, we must." Years later, Ahsoka stood in the temple courtyard watching younglings train. Anakin approached, a toddler on each shoulder. "They're already better than I was," he said. "You mean more humble?" He laughed. "Not likely." And in the Outer Rim, Maul faded into legend. A Sith without an empire, a Fury without a future. Because Ahsoka Tano made a single different choice. Ahsoka stayed, and the Jedi actually got their act together. Anakin chilled out, Maul went to Sith therapy, and Yoda finally took a vacation. Balance. Story 5. What if Leia had been trained as a Jedi instead of Luke? The galaxy trembled as darkness swallowed star systems. The Empire tightened its grip. The spark of hope was nearly extinguished. But it would not die. On Alderaan, in a palace carved from marble and stained glass, Bail Organa made a decision. "The Jedi are gone," he whispered to his wife, "but not forgotten. We must preserve what they were." Their daughter slept peacefully in the next room. Not yet a senator, not yet a general, just a child, with the Force whispering in her dreams. Leia Organa was never told of her heritage until adulthood in the original timeline. But if the Jedi had acted differently, if Obi-Wan and Yoda had prepared her instead of her brother, the light might have found a different path. Years passed. While Luke farmed moisture on Tatooine, Leia trained in secret. Breathing exercises, meditation, saber forms. Obi-Wan visited when he could, always under a false name. "She is strong," he said to Bail, "stronger than I expected." "She's Organa," Bail said, "but she's also a Skywalker." By age 16, Leia could levitate boulders. By 18, she could sense emotions like ripples in a pond. But she kept her training hidden, even from the rebellion she helped build. The Death Star still came. Leia was still captured. But when she sat in her cell aboard the battle station, she did not tremble. When Tarkin threatened her, she reached into his mind and found fear. "You're not the monster you pretend to be," she said. "You're afraid of becoming irrelevant." Tarkin slapped her, but he couldn't shake the chill that followed. When Kenobi came aboard to disable the tractor beam, he reached out through the Force and found Leia reaching back. "I'm here," she whispered in her cell. "I'm coming," he replied through thought. Han and Chewie still freed her, but when they met the old man in the corridor, she froze. "Ben, you've grown strong," he said. And then Vader appeared. Obi-Wan still fought Vader, but this time with one goal, to pass the torch not to a boy on the sidelines, but to a woman already holding the flame. Obi-Wan fell, Leia screamed, and the Force screamed with her. Doors shattered, lights flickered. For a moment, every sensor on the Death Star glitched. They escaped. But Leia changed. Back at the base on Yavin, she sat in silence with Luke Skywalker. "You're my brother," she said suddenly. "What?" I don't know how I know." Luke blinked. "Is that a Jedi thing?" "Maybe." He grinned. "You're the Jedi, not me." Training accelerated. Yoda resisted at first, but relented when he felt her aura. "Anger burns in her," he said, "but hope too." "She lost a world," Obi-Wan's voice replied through the Force. "Let her turn that loss into strength." Leia trained on Dagobah, not Luke. She faced the cave. Inside she saw herself, crowned Empress of the Galaxy, cloaked in black. "I'll never become that," she said. "You will," Yoda warned. "If stop learning, you do." Where Luke was driven by wonder, Leia was driven by responsibility. Her path was not easier, only different. But that difference shaped the war. Endor came, but this time it was Leia who confronted Vader. "I know who you are," she said. "You know nothing," he rasped. "You're my father." Vader hesitated. Palpatine watched them both with glee. "Strike him down," he hissed. "Take his place." Leia's saber ignited, but she did not attack Vader. She attacked the Emperor. Palpatine was ready. Lightning surged. Vader stepped forward and caught it, just as in another life. But this time there was no Luke, only Leia. She held her father's hand as he collapsed. "You saved me," she whispered. "No," he said. "You saved yourself." Vader died. The second Death Star exploded. Leia returned to Endor with her brother and the rebellion. In a galaxy desperate for peace, Leia Organa became its sword and its shield. Not just a diplomat, not just a Jedi. She was both. The Jedi Temple was rebuilt on Chandrila. Leia refused the title of Grand Master. "I serve the people," she said, "not a doctrine." Luke trained others. Sabine helped. Ezra returned from the unknown. Together, they taught a new way. Han still married her. Chewie babysat the younglings. And in the quiet evenings, Leia stood on the balcony, watching the stars, hand on her lightsaber hilt. Not in fear, in readiness. Leia out-Jedi'd the Jedi, Force-tamed Tarkin's toupee, and emotionally reversed Palpatine. Also, Han still doesn't understand how lightsabers work. Story 6. What if Qui-Gon Jinn had survived Naboo? The battle in Theed raged above them, but deep beneath the palace, two Jedi stood in the plasma-fueled heart of a duel. Blades hummed, sparks flew, red against green. Then blue joined, streaking with fury. Darth Maul snarled, his face twisted in rage, his double-bladed saber a crimson blur. Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi fought not just for their lives, but for the future. In the final blow, Obi-Wan leapt, slashing downward as Maul blocked low. And then Qui-Gon stepped in from behind, plunging his emerald blade through the Sith's spine. Maul's body collapsed, lifeless. Obi-Wan landed, panting. Qui-Gon extended a hand. "It's not over," he said, "but it's a start." Qui-Gon surviving changed more than the fate of one Sith. It preserved a philosophy the Order had nearly extinguished, one that trusted the will of the living Force above politics, prophecy, and war. The Jedi Council gathered soon after. "The boy must be trained," Qui-Gon said. Yoda frowned. "Too old he is, too dangerous." "Too important," Qui-Gon replied. Obi-Wan added softly, "He's not just powerful, he's scared." Mace Windu shook his head. "There is risk." "There is always risk," Qui-Gon countered. "But I will train him, with or without your blessing." Yoda sighed. Then granted, permission is. Anakin Skywalker became a Padawan, not of the Order, of Qui-Gon Jinn. Training did not begin in temples. It began in villages, on neutral moons, among refugees and farmers and smugglers. You're not here to learn power, Qui-Gon said. You're here to learn perspective. But I thought Jedi were warriors. No, we're servants. Start acting like one. Anakin learned empathy first. He repaired broken generators before he ever built a lightsaber. He healed droids before dueling. He was shaped not by dogma, but by care. Padme became a recurring presence. She and Anakin talked, not in secret shadows, but across campfires. I'm not supposed to form attachments, Anakin once said. Qui-Gon, listening nearby, said, that's not true. You're not supposed to possess. You're supposed to love without fear. Meanwhile, the Jedi Order noticed. The Clone Wars began. Kamino's army was discovered. Dooku revealed himself. But Anakin remained grounded. Qui-Gon challenged the Council at every turn. This war is not ours, he warned. They ignored him, so he worked outside them. Qui-Gon's rogue status became a shield against Palpatine's influence. Without direct access to Anakin, the Chancellor's manipulation failed to take root. Anakin still fought. He still became a hero. But when visions of Padme's death plagued his dreams, he told Qui-Gon immediately. I feel helpless, he said. Qui-Gon nodded. Then we seek help. They traveled to Mortis, to the well of the Force. They found the answer not in power, but in letting go. Trust her path, Qui-Gon said, and Anakin did. Palpatine grew desperate. He orchestrated his own kidnapping on Coruscant. Anakin and Obi-Wan still rescued him. But when Dooku was defeated and Palpatine urged execution, Qui-Gon interrupted. Let the courts decide, he said. Anakin hesitated, then nodded. Dooku was spared, and Palpatine's mask cracked. Without war trauma or spiritual isolation, Anakin never unraveled. He didn't fall, and without the Chosen One's fall, the Sith's end came not in fire, but in exposure. The Council finally listened. Anakin was knighted, unconditionally. Qui-Gon returned to the temple, no longer a pariah. And Sidious, cornered, attempted a coup through the Senate. But Bail Organa and Padme Amidala moved first, revealing secret communications, funding trails, and clone override protocols. Sidious was arrested, alive. Yoda sighed. Mistakes we made. The war ended, without a purge. Without a rise of an empire, Anakin married Padme in the open. Their twins were born on Coruscant in a galaxy still fragile, but healing. Years later, Anakin taught younglings beneath a waterfall on Naboo. Luke stacked stones. Leia dismantled a protocol droid. Padme arrived with lunch. Qui-Gon watched from a bench, smiling. This is the legacy, he said. Not sabers, not battles, balance. Qui-Gon lived, Anakin got therapy, Dooku got spared, and Yoda said, oops. Jedi Council now offers a new elective, emotionally available 101. Story 7. What if Ezra Bridger had accepted the Emperor's offer? The world between worlds rippled around him. Endless doors, infinite stars, voices from every era echoing like wind in a canyon. Ezra Bridger stood at the nexus of destiny. Through one portal, he saw Kanan's sacrifice. Through another, the siege of Mandalore. Another showed a boy staring at twin suns. And then, the Emperor appeared. A projection? A presence? Something more. I can give it all back to you, Sidious said silkily, stepping forward. His hands crackled faintly with restrained lightning. The one you lost. The time stolen from you. You need only open the door. Behind the offered gateway stood Kanan Jarrus, alive, waiting. Choose, Ezra, the Emperor whispered. Be the key. In the original tale, Ezra rejected temptation. He destroyed the gateway. But what if, in a moment of grief, he said yes? Ezra reached forward. The portal opened. He stepped through. The galaxy blinked. Lothal never fell. The Empire moved past it, distracted by rebel cells elsewhere. Kanan returned, alive and confused, remembering the explosion, then nothing. The ghost crew celebrated. But something changed. Ezra began to dream in double. He remembered two versions of everything. One with loss, one without. One with purpose, one with doubt. He kept hearing the Emperor's voice. "You've restored balance, my child." Ezra said nothing, but the guilt festered. Palpatine didn't lie. He never had to. Ezra had indeed restored something, but at the cost of time's integrity. The Force began to ripple, unstable, angry. Elsewhere, strange things happened. Jedi long dead reappeared in visions. Sith holocrons flickered open without command. On Mustafar, Darth Vader stumbled mid-mission, hand to his helmet. I felt something, he hissed. The timeline strained. Kanan sensed it too. "I shouldn't be here," he said one night, staring into hyperspace. Ezra looked at his hands. "You are." But at what cost? Palpatine reached out again, this time from the shadows of Coruscant. "You've seen the fractures," he whispered. "The echoes, the decay. The universe is collapsing. But I can stop it. With your help." Ezra screamed in frustration. "What do you want from me?" "To lead," the Emperor purred. "You've seen the Jedi's weakness. Join me, truly. Together we can remake everything, cleanly, correctly." It was no longer about Kanan or the Ghost. It was about creation, control over chaos. And Ezra was caught in the middle. Hera noticed it. Sabine confronted him. "You're slipping," she said. "Whatever bargain you made, it's warping everything." Ezra wept. "I just wanted him back." They argued, yelled. Zeb punched a wall, but Kanan said nothing. He only approached Ezra, hugged him tightly, and said, "I'm ready now." "What?" "You have to send me back." "I can't." "You must." Together they returned to the world between worlds. The portal waited. Ezra opened it again, barely able to stand. Kanan looked back once, smiling. "Thank you. For more time." He stepped through and vanished. The timeline realigned, smoother, but changed. Ezra awoke on the Ghost alone in his quarters. Kanan was gone. Had he dreamed it? The crew acted normal, but his mind still held the scars of two worlds. He never told them. Palpatine was furious. The world between worlds had sealed itself. The boy was useful, he growled. Now he's dangerous. But by then, Ezra was beyond reach. He'd tasted temptation, bent time, and lost more than anyone would ever know. But he'd come back, changed, but whole. When Thrawn cornered Lothal, Ezra didn't hesitate. He sacrificed himself again, but this time without a safety net. The Purrgil took him, the timeline held, and the galaxy began to heal. Years later, Sabine Wren stood atop the cliffs of Lothal, lightsaber on her hip, beside Ahsoka Tano. "He's out there," she said. "I know," Ahsoka replied. They watched the stars together, waiting for the next ripple. Ezra turned time into spaghetti, Palpatine tried to pitch a Netflix reboot, and Kanan ghosted the timeline like a classy Jedi king. Wibbly-wobbly, forcey-worsey. Story 8. What if Count Dooku had never left the Jedi Order? The Jedi Temple was bathed in golden dusk, columns casting long shadows over the council chamber. Count Dooku stood before the Masters, not in defiance, but reflection. His cloak fluttered as he turned toward the window, looking out over Coruscant's never-ending sprawl. "I will not leave," he said quietly. "Not yet." Mace Windu and Ki-Adi-Mundi exchanged glances. Yoda's ears twitched. "Why stay, you do?" "Because the galaxy is beginning to rot," Dooku replied. "And if I walk away now, I'll only watch it burn from the shadows." In the original timeline, Dooku left the Order disillusioned, fell under Sidious's influence, and became Darth Tyrannus, architect of the Clone Wars. But what if he stayed and fought the corruption from within? Dooku's decision stunned the Order. He returned to teaching, taking on a new Padawan, Quinlan Vos. He refused council offers. He declined Senate ties. He walked the temple as a ghost, speaking rarely but listening always. The corruption in the Senate grew louder. Trade routes were bought. Systems were sold. The Jedi grew uncomfortable. But Dooku moved through politicians like a surgeon, cutting out disease when others bowed to it. He met privately with Bail Organa. "The Jedi are pawns," Bail said bitterly. "Only if we forget who we are," Dooku answered. "You'll find we're not all blind." Meanwhile, Sidious watched from behind the curtain. He had hoped Dooku would turn. Now he required a new apprentice. He found Maul, and while Maul's blade was sharp, his mind was narrow. Palpatine's web frayed. Without Dooku to orchestrate the Clone Wars, Sidious's strategy stumbled. The separatist movement never crystallized. The war remained a dozen scattered sparks, none strong enough to ignite the fire. Jango Fett was never recruited. Kamino was never visited. No clone army appeared. And the Jedi, though burdened, remained keepers of peace. Padme Amidala stood at the Senate podium, demanding answers about missing funds. Dooku stood beside her. "You no longer represent Sereno," Mas Amida sneered. "I represent the Republic," Dooku answered coldly, "something you've long since abandoned." Palpatine's smile thinned. Sidious shifted focus. He accelerated Anakin's grooming. Tried to pull him close, but Anakin was guided not only by Obi-Wan, but Dooku as well, who took a quiet interest in the boy. "Emotion is not your enemy," Dooku told him, "but it must be understood, or it will master you." Dooku never embraced Sith absolutism. He taught complexity, and Anakin, starved of nuance, drank it in. On Naboo, Padme and Anakin still fell in love, but it was not secret. When the Jedi learned, the Council debated. Dooku stood. "If we deny love, we deny growth. Let the boy marry, let him grow, or watch him crack." Yoda blinked slowly. "Agree, we do." Palpatine grew desperate. He unleashed Maul early. Maul attacked the temple directly, slaying younglings, carving his way toward the holocrons. Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Dooku met him in the Hall of Mirrors. 3 generations, 1 Sith, they fought as a storm of blades and flame. Maul fell, not dead, but broken, dragged away by the shadows. Dooku stood over the wounded Jedi. "This is what we invite when we hesitate." Anakin stared at his saber, breathing heavily. "I'll never become that." Dooku raised an eyebrow, then remained curious, never certain. Dooku's presence redefined the Jedi's response to the rising dark. The temple didn't cling to dogma, it adapted. Slowly, painfully, Palpatine made one final attempt. He revealed himself to Anakin, told him of Darth Plagueis, offered him power beyond death. But Anakin laughed. "My wife's not dying. My order didn't betray me. What do I need you for?" And he ignited his saber. The Emperor leapt, but this time he faced a wall of blades. Anakin, Dooku, and Mace Windu brought him down together. Sidious screamed as the Force cracked like thunder. And then it was done. The Sith ended not in a purge, but in exposure. Anakin became a master, not a legend, not a cautionary tale, just a Jedi. Padme gave birth to the twins, named not in hiding, but celebration. Leia of Naboo, Luke of Tatooine. Dooku declined a seat on the council. He returned to Sereno to rebuild the planetary alliance that once stood for peace. He wrote often to Anakin, and in his final days he smiled beneath the twin moons. "Balance was always possible," he whispered. "We only had to listen." Dooku stayed classy, made Palps panic, and taught Anakin to chill. Turns out the best Sith prevention is one smug grandpa with a cape and a moral compass. Story 9. What if Rey had accepted Kylo Ren's hand on Exegol? Lightning split the skies above Exegol, black clouds writhing around spires of obsidian and ancient Sith statues. The Force churned in chaos. Palpatine's voice slithered through the darkness. "You are nothing, but not to me." Rey stood trembling, lightsabers humming in both hands. Ben Solo, bleeding from wounds both old and new, extended his hand. "Let it end," he said. "Together." Rey looked at him, at the man once called Kylo Ren. Her eyes burned with tears, and this time, she took his hand. In another life, Rey chose resistance, isolation, sacrifice, but this path, the darker one, led to alliance, and danger, and perhaps salvation. The moment she touched Ben's palm, something cracked in the Force. Palpatine recoiled. "You dare defy me?" he hissed. "We choose our own destiny," Rey said, stepping beside Ben. "You are my blood. I am not your heir." They turned their blades toward him, blue and red, now side by side. But Sidious had waited lifetimes for this moment. He did not resist. He absorbed. Their combined power surged into him like lightning through a storm rod. The ritual awakened. His eyes burned yellow. "I see it now," he said, giddy. "Together you are my perfection." He rose, not frail, whole, rejuvenated. The Force screamed. Ben and Rey were thrown back, smoke rising from their robes. Palpatine floated above the dais, cloak snapping in phantom wind. "You gave me everything," he whispered. And he was right. By joining hands, they didn't just combine their strength. They fulfilled a prophecy Palpatine had twisted for generations. The dyad, two as one, offering a gateway to the ultimate power. Rey awoke in a crater. Ben knelt beside her, breath shallow. "We failed." "No," she whispered. "We changed the rules." Together they fled. Exegol trembled. Palpatine didn't pursue immediately. He didn't need to. He had ascended. Back on Ajan Kloss, the Resistance reeled. Leia was gone. Finn paced the command center. Chewie howled in grief. Then the sensors flared. Two signals, Rey and Ben, alive. But something was different. Poe aimed a blaster as they landed. "Give me one reason not to shoot him in the face." Rey stepped in front. "He's not Kylo anymore." "You think that makes it better?" "No," Rey said, "but we're your only shot now." The Resistance fractured. Many refused to trust them, but others, Finn, Rose, Maz, saw something in their eyes. Not redemption, but responsibility. Palpatine's empire reborn began to spread. No longer a puppet, no longer weakened by clones or masks. This was the real Sith. Rey and Ben became fugitives, rogues, guardians of balance. But from the outside, they trained in forgotten temples. They studied holocrons, both Jedi and Sith. They became something new. On Datamir, they unearthed secrets buried in ichor and bone. On Jeddah, they communed with echoes of the Guardians of the Wills. They no longer wore labels, not Jedi, not Sith, just the Dyad. Palpatine ruled with fire, planets burned, but he could never find them, because the Dyad wasn't a location, it was a myth, a whisper, a symbol of defiance. They had given him power. But they'd also set the galaxy on a new path, one not bound by ancient lines, one that looked towards something the Jedi and Sith had always feared, change. Decades passed. Stories of two travelers, a man and a woman, never aging, spread across the outer rim. They stopped wars before they began. They healed the sick with a glance. Children followed them in secret. They left no names, only balance. Reylo went full-force power couple, accidentally supercharged Palps, then ghosted the galaxy like mystic space hippies. Jedi, Sith, nah, team vibe. Story 10. What if Boba Fett had turned against the Empire after Cloud City? The carbonite hissed as it sealed shut, locking Han Solo into perfect frozen stillness. Boba Fett stepped forward, inspecting his prize with a bounty hunter's precision. The metal slab shimmered in the freezing chamber light. "Perfect hibernation," he muttered. Vader loomed behind him. "You may take Captain Solo to Jabba the Hutt." Boba gave a curt nod, but something in him shifted. Fett had no loyalty, only credits. But in that moment, watching Skywalker scream as Solo disappeared, watching Vader's cruelty without hesitation, Fett felt something rare. Disgust. Slave I lifted off from Cloud City. But it didn't fly straight to Tatooine. Instead, Boba Fett docked at a shadowport on Balnab, a pirate world where Imperial scanners rarely reached. He stood before the carbonite slab, arms crossed, lost in thought. "Why am I doing this?" He asked no one. IG-88's dismembered head blinked in the corner. Over time, Fett learned who Han Solo really was. Not just a smuggler, but a rebel, a friend, a man who fought for something bigger. And Fett had never fought for anything. He sent a transmission, encrypted, hidden. To Leia Organa, it read, "I have Solo, we need to talk." The rendezvous happened on Ordo Moon. Leia came with Chewbacca and Lando. Fett stood alone. "You got guts showing your face," Chewie growled. "I didn't come for a fight," Boba said. "I came for leverage." Leia narrowed her eyes. "You're not turning him over." "I've seen what Vader did to him, and to the kid. I want out." "Out of what?" Lando asked. "The whole system." Boba Fett was no saint. But even devils get tired of devils. His betrayal of the Empire wasn't about justice. It was about self-preservation. And a strange foreign thing, principle. They struck a deal. Fett would return to Tatooine, fake the handoff. and then help spring Han from Jabba's grasp from the inside. The plan went sideways immediately. Jabba didn't trust Fett's silence. Leia's infiltration was discovered early. Luke arrived too soon, but Fett played it straight just long enough. When the Rancor roared, Boba sabotaged the trapdoor. When Jabba ordered Leia chained, Fett redirected the guards. When Luke stood above the Sarlacc, saber in hand, Fett fired a rocket not at him, but at Jabba's throne. The palace erupted in chaos. Jabba choked. Boba ignited a blast of fueled escape. The sail barge exploded again. But this time, Fett didn't fall into the pit. He flew out, with Han on one shoulder and Leia on the other. They regrouped in deep space. "You sure about this?" Han asked him. "No. You just gonna fly off again?" "Not yet." Fett didn't become a rebel. He didn't join the Alliance, but he started giving them intel, convoy routes, bounty leads, hidden prisons. No one knew his face, only the call sign, Ghost Burner. The Empire put a price on his head. Other hunters came, Dengar, Bosk, Zuckuss. Fett beat them all. He sent their helmets back to Vader, stuffed with spice. He visited Kamino once, stood alone in the rain. He left a clone datapad buried under the platform, encrypted, his legacy. He was there at Endor, hidden in orbit, intercepting transmissions. He heard Palpatine scream. He felt the shockwave. He laughed. Just once. In the aftermath, when the New Republic rose, Fett vanished. Some say he died. Others say he guards the Outer Rim, keeping peace in his own brutal way. All we know is, when crime lords step out of line, a shadow falls across the sand. And a voice says, "No disintegrations." Boba said nope. To Jabba, Vader, and getting Sarlacced, ended up the galaxy's crankiest anti-hero with a jetpack and a conscience. Fett's all morals, but make 'em spicy. That last one was a doozy. Huh? Ha ha. Oh, I crack myself up. But, as the stars fade and the Force grows still, may your dreams carry you deeper into the galaxy's mysteries. Thank you for drifting with us through these quiet Star Wars tales. Make sure to subscribe to the Jedi Rest YouTube channel for more relaxing tales of the galaxy. Far, far away until the next starlit journey. May the morning be gentle and the Force be with you.